did it.
Woohoo! We stuck it. Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So how long have we known each other? I was trying to figure it out.
Wow. You mean in this life? I don't know. I mean,
Like over a decade. Well, more than that. No, like 15 years. It's been a while.
Definitely over a decade, but maybe let's call it 12 since it's the year of the dragon and it's 12-year cycles. Let's call it 12 years.
Wait a minute. 15. I was with you the last year of the dragon.
Really? In 2012?
I'm positive because we were on set Extreme.
Oh, you're right. I think you were. Or it was right after that in New York.
It doesn't matter.
Who knows? Yeah.
But what I have seen is I feel like you're a completely different person now. Would you agree? Yeah. No, I think that you're softer.
Oh, no, I definitely am. Yeah. I mean, even the woman who married me, she's like, I would not have wanted the man you were. And I was like, that's good to hear. But I think she's right. I know. Well, here's the thing. When you get caught up in the wheel of TV production and look, there's one thing about people blowing, smoke at you, but there's another, because I've never been that kind of person who believes any of that. I'm like, okay, I'm on a lucky run. Let's take advantage of it. But I know it's all smoke and mirrors. But however, when your life becomes just this tumbling ball of you just really never have a day off, like you love it, but at the same time, you're like, what is this thing I'm on? You don't really, what happens is you roll away from your original personality, because when you're not like in front of a camera, sort of saying lines to be whatever you're supposed to be, which is supposed to be yourself, those years that you used to just hang around and have fun and laugh with your friends and play guitar, that's who you are. And the longer you're away from that, you do start to sort of glide away from the person you actually were or are, and you get caught up in this title and this name of, oh, that's that guy. Right. And so I think it does affect you. I'm sure everybody who's ever had a moment of fame goes through that. But what is lovely about my little trajectory is that I've had a chance to be away from that for a while and just sort of become me again. Right. Because like we have to do that. Like people don't know that I write songs and I write poetry or what. I mean, that's not what no one cares to know that. And I don't care to share it with anyone because they don't need to know. But like, I think you have to do that, and you have to laugh with your mom who's, becoming senile and wearing diapers, and you're right behind her and you're like, yes, let's get this campaign together. Which, yes, I'm going for it. But anyway, my point
but you were saying like you, after Extreme, I feel like you took some time off.
Well, no. So Extreme ended, and immediately I was thrown into
the talk show.
The talk show, which was really a cluster because they didn't really know what they wanted it to be. And whenever you're in a situation where somebody doesn't know what they want it to be, it never goes well, because they're like, oh, is it a self-help? Or is topics of the day? And it was this kind of thing that we had to film as if it wasn't the day we were filming, so we couldn't talk about anything that was current. Which I'm like, that really narrows it. Anyway, but I had a lot of fun, and we had some laugh, and I got to work with Tim Gunn, who was like so much fun to make laugh, because when he laughs, he just lets go of all his reserved tenseness, and he just bursts out in laughter. It's the most wonderful thing to see him just enjoy like laughter. And but he's such a great guy.
Okay, so then after that, I feel like before HGTV, you were sort of taking a break from all of this for a while.
Oh, yeah. No, I was still living in California, but I started. I decided, you know what? Maybe I do need to sort of get back to. I'd been away from like everybody I knew from Atlanta, my family, all of that. And so I was like, well, maybe I do take on a project. And I was able to work out a deal where I was going to build a house because I found some property in Florida. And then I started just building this house and designing this house while I was in California that I was going to have built while I was, in Florida, which made it very challenging. So I went back and forth quite a bit. But then I built this beautiful house, which I'm in now. But the point is like, I finally had a chance to build my own home, instead of like building this crazy thing in 7 days, with other teams and volunteers and builders that can knock it out in a week or 2 weeks. Well, they actually did it in a week. Of course, this thing took me 2 years, but I think it was important for me to go through the process of really going through what somebody else actually goes through instead of doing it on a TV show. So, I mean, it turned out to be pretty incredible because I was so meticulous about like which direction the wood was going to run, like where the sun was going to be during this part of the day, and where all the above. Like I really sort of pulled off a Taliesin, if you will, if you study Frank Lloyd Wright, my own sort of creating. And it was great, and I love it, and I thank God I got it right because you have to look at it every single day, and that's when you realize how important it is to get every single detail right.
So during that time, you're building your own sanctuary. And I know that you and I both agree about your home says a lot about your mental health and just how happy you can be. You even wrote a book about it. So do you feel like you needed to take that time off to sort of ground back into who you are, what you said that you've lost throughout those years of being on all the shows?
I don't know if I ever think too deeply about what I needed. Let's face it, I've never thought about what I needed, which is just painfully obviously in my personality. But I think, I think the universe works in your favor a lot of the time, and it's because look, I am only happy, which I think a lot of people are that way, is when you're in a project and it's because and sometimes it's just the beginning stages of that project, which is, the eureka moment, the ideas, that's the euphoria. That's when you're like, oh my God, I just flipped the direction how she go, and it's going to be completely different. And like, then you're ecstatic by the thought of it. Then there's the more, the process gets, a little bit more dragged down into how it's done. But it's going through it that's the thrill. That's why I think I can't be stagnant. I can't like do nothing. It's even though I did see a shrink in New York one time and explained my life and like, oh, I just moved from here and I'm going to be here for like 3 years, whatever. I think it depends on how the show works out or whatever. And the guy goes, have you ever thought about doing nothing? And I go, wow. No, I haven't. Of course, he's got all these Zen Buddhists in his office, and he's like, "You should look into doing nothing at some point." I was like, "Huh, okay, I'll put that on the list." But
Yeah.
I think
I think that's
there
impossible
is,
for you because you've also been very vocal about struggling with ADHD. And
yeah.
so I don't even know if you would have to force yourself to stop.
Well, I don't know if that's healthy. Okay, like my mom is retired, and this is a woman who used to write novels. She used to like do dissertations on Aphrodite. She used to do these dance troupes of females that go, in these churches. And just to watch, her sort of just like sometimes stare at the television and watch reruns, like it makes me sad inside. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to slow down. I don't want to do nothing. And but I do want to change gears and like maybe take a month and write some songs and see if I could actually have the talent to write a decent song. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm hoping. Like, but my point is, like, maybe there is. Like, it's just weird. Both my dads were musicians, so you think I could at least like, okay, that is a keeper. But anyway, other people have different opinions. It's like an artist, right? The only time we like our work is if it looks like somebody else's work, and then you're like, that's what I'm talking about. But if you think it's garbage, that's the stuff other people like. They're like, no, I love that. It's so ugly. It's perfect. You're like,
No.
oh, I see your
Wait,
point.
getting
So,
back to the work
yeah.
and what made you during this time of you were creating this space, you were getting back to creating music, but what made you get really back into TV? Because you came back in like fully. You have like a million shows on HGTV now, but what happened during that comeback? Or I mean, I don't want to call it a comeback, right? In LL Cool J, but like
Dude,
what
okay. This is so funny because um, it's so funny because I had to do
Tamara
yeah,
Hall.
Tamara Hall. Well, the producers called and they're like, "Hey, we want you to be on our show. It's about like getting your life back on track." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, I mean,
You're like, who's the
I,
guest?
but yeah, I'm like, "Who's the guest?" And they're like, "Well, you've just been through so much, and like,
But you have.
I have." But here's the thing: what people don't realize is I actually never stopped working. So like, okay, so after the talk show in New York,
Yeah, tell me.
um, so well, I was living in New York, so I was loving life in New York, and then from there, I was doing sort of this man on the street show with, I don't know if I think it was CNN, but it was something else where I was literally sort of just a man about town doing sort of different towns, different colleges, talking about America, talking about the different things happening there. I also did a show with Emerald called What's on the Menu. And it was with TNT. It was a great show. I mean, we had like Sammy Hagar, we had all these big restaurant chains, and like it was great. It's basically the beginning of all those food challenge shows. But because it was on TNT, it didn't resonate because nobody goes to TNT to watch a food show. They go to Food Network. But I just got to be really good friends with Emerald, and it was a great show. But then what else happened? Oh my God, I did this diner show where we're redoing diners all across. So
Yeah.
when people are thinking like I was just sitting like Luke Skywalker on some island in the middle of the Pacific, thinking about like what has happened in my life, I would still like.
No, I know that you were still working. I know
Yeah.
you were still working, but you were pretty vocal about it a few years
No,
ago.
and I was off. I was off social media. Like when.
Yeah, but you were vulnerable about you were vulnerable
Yeah.
about having a lull, a little bit of
Well,
lull.
here's why. Here's why.
Tell me. Because here's
Well,
why I'm
you were
asking. I
part.
think there's a lot of
Yeah.
people who are listening who are in
Yeah.
their own lulls and
Ah.
they feel like they're too old, they've too seen, not seen, don't know anyone, no, all the things. So what
Okay.
went through your mind to allow yourself to feel like you still, wanted to get out
Yeah.
there and show more of Ty?
Okay, so here's the truth. All right, so when you are on a show, like, first of all, Trading Spaces was an amazing show because we got to just have fun in people's houses. Like they were like, oh my God, there's a carnival party that's coming to our neighborhood. We're gonna switch with our families. We're gonna laugh hysterically for 3.5 days, and someone's gonna end up with a living room that sucks. But I don't care because it's gonna be so much fun, right? And that was amazing. But Extreme was a different show. It was like it just grew into this like really incredible real emotional journey. And like it didn't start out that way, but because of the personalities that were on the show, including myself, you started having these really deep conversations with people who'd been through a lot of stuff. And so you realize that like what we do as artists and designers like really can change someone's life. It can turn the page and just really give people what they can't do for themselves. And that's when you realize that design really is something that's aesthetic. It's important to us as a soul because clutter not only like in real life but also inside you. It just blocks all ability to be happy. And so having people come in, throw everything out, and build like a brand new something. And yes, we don't throw it away. We actually put it in storage because I would lose my shit too. They'd like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, coming off of a show that was the
Stop
greatest.
hitting the table. I'm gonna come and
All
put
right.
I'm gonna tie your hands behind your back.
All right, I'll put something that makes so much noise right here. So coming off a show like Extreme, which was like the Mount Everest of home design shows, because not only did we do something that cannot even be done again, which is building a house in 7 days, but more importantly, we really changed people's lives. And
Yeah.
you felt like you really did something, like you had real worth because you saw the reaction in their faces. So after doing that, just doing a show where you're flipping a house and making a profit, and you're saying, well, I got more money for mine than yours. It just didn't seem to be the same caliber of satisfaction. And so I was like, well, I mean, I enjoy being on television, but like if there's a great show that's like a lot of fun to do, then I'll do. But I also love just creating TV. So yes, I said yes to a couple of shows that were smaller, but it was just one of those things where I honestly knew that I had to go dormant, because how can you go from like this to then do a show that's like this? Just be like, just some time. Just like, it's like creating the best album ever and then coming out with like, oh, but then we also made this album. It's like, just let it lie. Like, be as good as your last work was. Like, and just let it realize like you don't have to continue at that pace. Like, it's okay to just like know that you really hit a high level, a watermark that you should be so proud of. But everything else is down here. And you got to get back to just being okay with, okay, now you can just be talent, you can just be a host, and you can just do shows that are competitive, but you can use your personality and your voice and still have so much fun that the people you're working with are now getting that same joy that we used to get from doing the show on Extreme, because you become a family when you work with these TV shows, as you know. But yeah, I had to sort of get away from it so that I became happy again. Here's what happens when you work every single day. Like, I think I had 10 days off for the holidays at Christmas. You get disconnected from everything that's living in your life, your plants, your pets, and whoever's waiting for you at home.
Yeah.
And when you lose all of that, you become the loneliest human on the planet. And you look for like love in all the wrong places, and you get just really lost in life. And I think,
Is that
even
what
though
happened to you?
I think a little bit. I think I could be the most popular person, you know, on the street, but also the loneliest person. It's like Tom Petty wrote songs about that, where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, so excited you guys got to see me, but I have to go and get on a bus and go to the next town. And that's literally what my life was like too. Like, you made connections, but then they had to be like short lived, and so you would start just sort of like vying for attention because you didn't really have it in the way that you wanted it. You just had it in a mass, in a mass viewing,
Right.
but you became actually really lonely. And so that's why it was so important to like laugh and take trips with friends whenever you did get a break, because I just love the sound of laughter. It's the best healing medication there is. Laughter is the best. And so yeah, I think sometimes when you do have great success in one thing, you have to like sometimes wait for that next wave to come in. You can't just jump to another wave. And
Right.
besides, let's face it, I got really lucky. You don't get, first of all, lightning strikes usually only one time. For me, it's like struck like two and a half to three times. And that's very rare in television, that 15 minutes turns into 15 to 20 years. I mean,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, I think what it is though, is it happened to me later in life that I actually did have the skills and sort of the confidence in myself to be in front of the camera. Also, like when I really did need to make something with my hands, I knew how to do it because I've been doing it my whole life. So I wasn't a con, because that's the thing that most people are afraid of. They're like, oh God, people are going to see that I'm actually, not who I said I was,
Right.
especially in this day and age of social media. But when
Yes.
you're who you are, then the best part is you should come further in. Like, I wish people saw what I did behind the secret door. You know what kind of rooms I actually made, but nobody else knew because we
Yes.
didn't show it. Like, it wasn't part of the show because it was a secret. And so it's crazy because like I was doing so much stuff behind the scenes, but you never saw any of that. And I'm like, we're missing great content. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
You're
yeah, I think
I did see. I mean, I still am so impressed with the level of like you're an actual artist. And I don't
sometimes.
think that anybody sees that. Your life, but going back to your life changing, like obviously getting married, huge shift in your life. And you
Ooh,
getting sick
yeah,
last year.
yeah, which I think is connected. No, I'm kidding.
No, it is
No,
Kelly. That is
no,
not true.
thank God. Thank God someone loves me, because like I was like, so I can't breathe. Like, so yeah, the craziest thing was happening. I went to the Barbie premiere out in LA, and I'm walking the red carpet trying to look as cool as I can. And then I went to dinner with Kelly that night at the proper downtown. And like every time I swallowed, I was like, what is going on? It was like swallowing razor blades. And I'm like, my throat had been hurting like for a while, like almost a month, and been really dry. And so the funny thing is, she's like, well, if you cover your mouth when you sleep, maybe it wouldn't be such a problem. You're like, what? I'm like, sure, yeah, let me just tape my mouth shut.
Some people do that.
But yeah, but that wasn't the issue, and it's never been the issue.
Right.
I was like, that's why I was like, oh, yeah, it was just me breathing. But no, a friend of mine had a daughter who had gone to camp and came back and had this weird like um, bandage on her neck or whatever. And I didn't think anything about it. And she's putting her hands on, this lemonade and sugar, and then hands me a drink. And I have no idea that it's just camp covered in germs. And I'm drinking it down. But something happened, and it got behind my tonsils and all the above. And there's this abscess that's happening. I had no idea was getting worse every day. So I go to sleep. I'm about to get up and shoot this show, Battle on the Mountain, and all of a sudden, like I could hear wind. Like when I'm trying to breathe, I heard it like closing up like this, and I was like, oh my god, I have to go. So at like 3 a.m, I got up and I drove to this hospital and I said, hey man, y'all need to give me a shot of something that's gonna, I'm having an allergic reaction or something. And they're like, okay, well, can we take a look at it? Maybe it's not that. I'm like, I don't know what else it would be. I think you should, give me the shot if you can. And so anyway, they took some pictures and put me in this thing to get an idea of what was happening. And then this doctor was like, hey, so look, we got to send you down to Denver. And I go, we're in Breckenridge. You don't have what we need right now. And he goes, no, here's the thing. I'm going to shove a tube down your throat. And he goes, but to do that, the only thing I can do is like, what if I make an incision, but it goes very wrong? Your artery is right there. And if that happens, you're going to bleed out in less than 5 minutes. And I was like, oh God. And I was like, hey, can I pee before I go? And he goes,
Oh,
he goes, I think you're good. I think let's get to Denver. So anyway, next thing I know, I wake up and like, they've cut into my throat and the whole 9 yards, but it was much worse than I thought. Like people are like messaging me saying, oh my God, my brother died of that. Like, like you just don't realize it can just happen that it closes up. And like, you die, or it's an infection that just goes so bad that you die from it. And so they cut it out. But I'm like, what in the hell was all that?
Well,
So
that's my question to you. What in the hell was all that? Like, what do you think the reason was for that? And be honest, like, have you really, did that change you in a way? Or have you changed the way that you look at your body or respect your body? Or no, it's just.
no, yeah, no, absolutely. No. Well, first of all, the other thing about me is people still think what's so funny, like, I had some bad press at one point. And let me tell you, one bit of bad press lasts a long time. Not about like, oh, this guy has helped so many families in the world. It's like, oh, this guy partied one night. And guess what? He's like, it's like, bam, 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 TMZ headline news. But what people don't realize is I don't even drink anymore. It's not that like I won't, like on the holidays or whatever, because I love wine, but I don't party anymore. Like I don't get out of control to the point that I'm like, just belligerent.
It just
like
hits different now. It hits
yeah.
different.
Well, it's not just that. It's just not fun because like I'm fun for 35 minutes, but then I'm like out of commission for 2 days. And I'm like,
Right.
That's just not who I want to be.
No.
But no, I mean, dude, I play all kinds of sports and I work out and like, look, I'm not like a spry chicken anymore either. So just the fact that I'm doing that's crazy. What is crazy is like how my friends are looking that are my age. I'm like, what the hell is going on? We've got to like, people got to just put down the vices, man. You can't smoke and drink. You turn into like, it's called oxidation, people. Look at an apple, just shave it and leave it on the counter and then realize what aging actually does. Because
Ty, you do look amazing for your age. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about us in the podcast, and I mentioned that you're going to be 60 next year, right?
Oh, so you had to say it. Yes. Yeah. No, like I'm going to be like 60 in like in the fall. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if it like sometimes I tell people I'm way older than I am just so I can hear them say I look great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm 57.
I'm 80. Can you believe it? Really? Yeah. Yeah. But
no, but you do look great. And I have seen you completely shift. I just think we're fun. Every time we work together, you're like my punching bag. We make fun of each other constantly and we have a good time. But I've also seen you evolve in such an amazing way that I do feel like you are just, I don't know, like you just seem softer. You seem more authentic. You seem more vulnerable. You seem more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah. I mean, here's what it is. I stopped trying to prove that I'm amazing. Like, I just realized, like, okay, nobody saw the cool things I was doing in my secret room. But you know what? I did them. People that work with me know. Like, you just get to a point it's sort of like what cool is when you stop trying to prove that you are cool, or when you stop trying to prove that you have a gift or a talent, then you realize, oh, that's why you're gifted, is you don't have to prove it. And I
Yeah.
think it takes a long time for us. Like, look, when we're young, we're like, look at me, look how
Yes.
cool I, look at,
Yes.
look at that, and then eventually, luckily for me, I got so much attention, and I was like, wow, that's a lot. Everyone sees what. So then you're like, but then nobody really sees you like your authentic self. They just see like their version of you. Like, this guy is, just a dude who, is a hunky handyman or whatever. But nobody knew like the layers of like what I can do, whether it's
Right.
but it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have to prove that to anyone because I've lived it. Like, and I think that's what it is. It's funny. It's like if you read the books like Siddhartha, all the above, they talk about like it's the path, it's the journey. That is like the lesson. It's like you have to go through it all to finally get to the point where you're like, oh right. Um, you do, and you can't go back and like have a conversation with your younger self because your
Yeah.
younger self doesn't want to hear it. They're like,
That's right.
hey, look, old man, that's cool, that's great, but look, I got to shred, I got to go. So you keep talking, and I'm gonna keep walking. But and that's
I
funny
mean, I
because
could say the same thing for me, it was different than the hunky carpenter. I was not that, but in HGTV, I felt like I had to be this perfect Martha Stewart like figure that was, always standing up straight and, my hair was always coiffed and that's not really who I am. You know me, like I curse like a sailor. I'm really sarcastic
and so does your mom.
and
Yeah.
so does my mom. But once I started not caring as much as pretending to be this perfect person, which I'm not, I feel like people have gravitated more towards me more professionally and personally because I stopped pretending.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You just can't pretend to be somebody else ever. And like, I've always tried to be like, I mean, look, let's face it, even on TV, most people are like, God, you're just like you are on television. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, because there's a camera in my face. And like, I usually don't do studio shows. I'm usually out sweating and dirty like I am in real life. And so, like, most of the time, it is who I really am. But the persona of television, like, yeah, everyone sort of sees you as a bigger human being than you are when truly, like, I think that's the beauty of just getting to know someone. You can finally let the guard down, and like even today, like when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, I'll raise my voice. I'm like shouting into the phone. Like, why? Like, they can hear you. Like, try to. And the thing with me too is like you just finally get to the point that you're like, you get wise enough that you finally start to listen to other people. And and
Yes.
and and that's the lesson, is that all that time you've been trying to talk and to tell somebody about what you did and what you're doing and blah 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 blah, aka narcissism. If you took a moment of silence and just sort of observe what's happening in the room and listen to other people's stories, you'd realize that, well, they've got really cool things going on in their life too, and that your life isn't any more important than theirs, and that you should
Yeah.
just listen for a change because they may be saying something that you never even realized. But when you're younger, you're just like me. Like, let me tell you about me. Let me tell you. And like, it's funny, but it's just, it takes the process of living through life and honestly, like going through tough, like emotional pain and all the above, and finally realizing a lot of things that your parents weren't great either. They had problems.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, you can't blame like everything on other people either. Like,
That's right.
nobody's perfect. Like, nobody's perfect. You have to accept like this is what you were dealt. But look at how far you've come with like the worst hand ever given. You've turned like, really old moldy lemons into some pretty delicious lemonade.
I
But
sure
like,
did. I
yeah,
went to this retreat last year. I've talked about it on the podcast a few times, but it dealt with a lot of like childhood issues. And it was the first time, Ty, I'm 47 years old. It was the first time I realized how young my parents were when they had me in their early 20s. And I'm like judging
yeah,
them. Do you know what I was doing in my early 20s? You don't want to know.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like, what did I do? What did I do? Who's got? It's not on video. It's not on video, right?
Thank
Okay.
God.
Yeah. Like,
Listen, Ty, I
I,
am so thankful for your friendship. I'm so grateful that I got to I've worked with you on well, it's Extreme, Trading Spaces, and Tiebreaker,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
your talk show I was on. So
yeah.
we've been around the block together, and I'm so grateful for your friendship. I'm so happy. You seem so happy. I love Kelly. I love what you're doing. I love all the shows you're on. I couldn't be more happy for you. And thank you for your time today too.
And I love my dogs more than anything
Oh, I
in the
know.
world. Like, how did I never, like, that's the thing that's going to rip my, oh my God, just like, why? Like, I've dodged so much emotional attachment my entire life. And then these little dogs come in. And like, if they ever pass away, like, I'm going to be wrecked. Like, I
We're not
could
going to
probably
talk
lose.
about that. We're not.
No, no.
Yeah, no, because
Anyway,
my dog's 15 and she's been with
oh
me since she was
God.
8 weeks old.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're just gonna not talk
Yep.
about that.
Yep. Got it.
Give
No,
Kelly my best too.
I will. And hopefully we'll either do a project together or we'll just do a trip. Like I have some ideas. I mean, your friends are my friends.
Come
We
to
should
Mexico. Tanya's gonna be there in
yeah.
July. Come meet us.
All right, maybe I will. That's not a bad idea.
Mi
I
casa,
mean,
su casa.
muy bien, muy bien. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for
Talk
having me.
soon.
I'll see you in Mexico.